So two things. One, I am not a transmission guy. And two, I grew up out in the country and we worked on Chevys and Dodges and very basic setups as far as transmissions and rear ends. So I figured, why not get started in transmission work with a Citroen transaxle out of the Lotus. So I'm gonna try to do what my teacher always says. First things first, pack the bearings. And it was probably one of my favorite jobs as a child because you get nice and messy and play with some sticky grease. And you essentially top and bottom in there, get it all in there, get as much grease as you possibly can in there because you just don't want metal on metal when you first start spinning this thing once it's in there. And then this race just kind of sits on top of it like that. So just your regular multi-purpose tacky grease. And like I said, it is a messy, messy job. So here is the original transmission that came out. We ordered a new transmission, just this piece, from a guy in the Netherlands. And what he does is he takes these Citroen transaxles, which are not known to take too much torque. And with us going to an EV setup, we're going to need some good torque numbers. So he takes a new transmission, sends them out with a new differential that is actually reversed. And all your forward gears are forward gears, your reverse gears are reverse gear. But the different geometry essentially takes the brunt out of the torque power that we're going to have from this EV. And we also went to a Quaife differential, which also kind of helps with that torque. And but what I had to do was he just sent the transmission piece, the case. So we have to use the original bell housing, the output shafts, the top and back cover, and put that on the new transmission that he sent us that you saw in the intro. So the best thing about this is everything is shimmed as far as the differential already. He has already taken this case and all the gears and everything inside there and shimmed it out already. So really all I have to do is put this in here like I have. There's some spacers in here which almost look like super thick piston rings. They've got a little gap in there, which is not a gap you want in a piston ring, but nonetheless he's marked these up for me. You can see the yellow on this side. I'll go over here. And then we've got what were these, white, I believe? Yeah, the whites over here go on this side. And those are just essentially the shims already. And since all the output shafts are the same, when I clamp them down on here, it's going to all be right where it needs to be. And you can kind of see that, we've got that. I don't know if you can hear that or not. That perfect sound that you want with your differential on the pinion, to where you don't want it right on it to where there's no play, but you want just that perfect amount of play in there. And they've already done that, so that's what's really nice. One thing I didn't have to worry about, and one thing I didn't want to have to worry about on this, because it's not like most rear ends that you just have just the differential and pinion, and it's all, it goes down into the transfer case and all that stuff. And like I said, I'm not a transmission guy, so it's nice to kind of have that. And what he suggested was an order of operations, which is to first put the bell housing on, which I think I can. So put that on. I've already cleaned it up, and so the only shimming you have to do is with these gaskets, and you can see I've already cut one out, and you're definitely not going to see it because I can barely see it up close, but if you rub your finger along here, there's just maybe half a millimeter, maybe a millimeter of tolerance difference here. Same on this side. And essentially what's happened is this bell housing designed for that transmission, the original, was shaped, you know, was planed together when, you know, this thing was built back in 87, 88, and this came off of some other, maybe Esprit, something else, and it was planed with a different bell housing. So they're not going to, they're going to be close, but they're not going to be perfect. And what he suggests is just taking and using these gaskets here, and it's more for sealing, because internals are fine, but it's more for sealing on the shimming here. And if you put, he sent me some extra gaskets, and if I put this gasket in here, then you can feel it's nice and you know, flat right there. That ridge is gone on both sides, and you know, same on this side. So that's the only shimming that I'm going to have to do. So I'll get this kind of set up, and we'll go on to the next stage. So I've got my output shafts on, as you can see, they're both on here. The bell housing has been on, and I've got all these bolts just pretty much just barely tight. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and tighten everything down at a 55 torque, foot-pounds torque. And there's no particular way or order to do that, so I'm just going to start torquing everything down, and then we should be good. So got all the bolts torqued down all the way around bell housing, both output shafts. That part, the kind of dicey part, if we want to call it that kind of made me nervous, is done. Now it's just putting the cover on here, the cover on the back. We've got our speedometer cable set up, you know, throwout bearing, all that good stuff. But for the most part, we are ready to go button this up this afternoon. And then, if you see, I got the motor up there, nice placement. Then it's time to figure out how to attach that, plus another motor on top of it, to this transaxle. But more to come on that. Thanks for watching.